Coutier?
Moved by Councillor LaFramboise and seconded by Councillor Coutier. Be it resolved, the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of St. Charles hereby opens the special meeting of Council at 6 p.m. on April 30, 2025.
All those in favor? Carried. We would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Robinson Huron Treaty Territory, and the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Atikameksheng Anishinaabe. We also wish to recognize our neighboring community of Tokees First Nation. While we meet today, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands we each call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous people and their culture. Can I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda? Councillor Loftus, Councillor Lachance.
Moved by Councillor Loftus and seconded by Councillor Lachance. Be it resolved that the agenda for the special meeting of Council held April 30, 2025 be adopted as presented.
All those in favor? Carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest, Councillor
None, Your Worship.
Councillor Loftus,
None, Your Worship.
Councillor Coutier,
None, Your Worship.
Councillor Lachance,
None, Your Worship.
and none for myself. Announcements from anybody on council? No? Okay. We move into item 5.1, report to council, draft budget.
Okay, so at the last council meeting, it was discussed to reduce the library contribution. In the previous year, they had withdrawn $10,000 from their reserves to help offset the cost. Council requested that we come back to budget to reduce it to match kind of what we gave last year. So I've done that. So it resulted in a $12,169 savings, which decreased the tax rate to 5.75. And then you see in the agenda package, there's only two numbers that change, which is the library contribution and the tax levy. So just asking if council is okay with this budget, and if so, we have the resolutions to, the bylaws to adopt everything. Any questions?
Any questions?
No, just, of course, we don't want to see the 5.7 increase. I'm just questioning, I remember Councillor Lachance bringing it forward about the grading for non-municipal, like, we've been putting that every year, but it's not been touched. Can we just take that away, because that would save up also?
That's because it was another municipal.
We could, but we have a contract with another municipality, West Nipissing. They just have not billed us. However, if they did choose to bill us, if they remembered to bill us,
So we come back, okay.
then I would have had it in there.
Okay. And then just, I know at last meeting, I guess it was talked about, the repair and maintenance for the office. It started at 30,000 and it went down to 20. Do we have a quote, like, do we have something on paper and
Yes.
describe, like, I just find it's like we're giving out these numbers and there's no quotes or anything that follows.
Yeah, so we did receive a quote, which initially was at 19,000, which is why we put the high amount in there, and then we received a third quote actually, and he came at just under 10,000, so which is why we were able to reduce by the 10,000. So I do have 3 quotes.
Okay. So you're looking at 10,000 now for
10,000 for the 2 building, or
Okay.
the 2 rooms,
The
and then
rooms.
the additional random stuff that we have. So we did reduce it by the 10,000 that we asked for.
Okay.
And then in the last budget, I know they had requested adding money for the lunchroom for public works, so we did do that in the last round, in budget 1 and revision 1.
Okay. Okay, that's for myself.
All right. Councillor Loftus, any questions?
Yeah, no, I have no questions.
Councillor Coutier,
No, no questions, no.
Councillor Lachance.
So I got a couple just because I wasn't here last meeting, and it's more just for clarification than it is for change. So the landfill new site construction, the $50,000, I was just curious if that was preparation for next year, or is it something that we're looking at undertaking this year?
It's something undertaking this year, so to build the new roads to the new site, or to see if we had to move the site. We were able to reduce some funds for that by using the fill from the roads. Now that council has agreed to reconstruct the roads, we were able to reduce that to use that fill to help create that stuff. So that is a plan that public
So the 50 is like a high number, or it's pretty much where we're,
There's no official, like, tender or quote, but that is her estimate.
like, well, hopefully it comes in lower than that, and maybe make a bit of a savings next year, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
It also depends on the report on how far we have to move over. You know, I think that's maybe worst case scenario.
Okay, the hard top patching wages, I was just curious, it's quite a bit lower than it has been in the past. Is that due to the repairs that are coming to the roads, or that kind of?
That, and we have reduced the number of hardtop roads that we've had by
Mhm.
pulverizing, so there's not as much patching required, because we don't have as many roads also.
Okay, that was the same for the material, because it went down to.
Yeah.
That's okay.
The public work wages, I was just curious, that line item, was that for just, time spent, sorry, was one worker's time spent for all work, is it one worker performing all, like, specific tasks for public works at the 94,000, that went up to 20 grand, or is it just increase?
It's a combination of things. Last year, we didn't have a full-time director of operations. This
Mhm.
year we did, and then public works, wages kind of also include stuff where we can't categorize into a different line item.
So the director falls under the public work wages and not under the admin?
Correct.
Okay. The public work garage drawings, that, at $10,000, obviously, there's no one that's been contracted to do this yet, that's just a ballpark estimate, I guess.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily drawings, it could be the consultation to see what we want to do. Because we don't even know if it's going to be a public works building, a new one, is it an addition, is it an all-encompassing,
Okay.
kind of thing, but it's $10,000 to start the process of figuring out what we're going to do.
So I say that doesn't seem like it's very
No.
much for structural drawings.
No, it's just to kind of start the process of whatever we decide to do.
A bit further down, page 38 of 8001, this number 9 dozer under repair to rebuild, and the $20,000, the rest of it's been empty, is because you just put a new line item for specific to the rebuild.
Yeah, so that was something that was added into revision one, I guess it came up after the budget was presented and the director of operations came, and that's where we were able to reduce 20,000 from the landfill, to cover that cost, so, because we are now doing that reconstruction.
And on page 46 and 47, maybe 48, 46 and 47, just the center column, there's no title at the top, I don't know.
Okay,
So what is it?
it's 2025's budget,
Okay, that's what I was assuming, but I just,
I will make sure that that's fixed.
okay. Okay, now on 63. I was just curious that the 2 new trucks aren't included on these. So the truck coming over from the fire department and the new, 1.5 ton pickup truck.
So at the time of the original budget that we did, we didn't know we were getting that 1.5 ton, but it would just replace the cost. So we do have some cost in,
2001 or whatever.
the number 11. So those costs would just be shifted over to the new truck.
Okay, they'd be the same.
Yes.
Okay, and what about the additional truck from the fire department?
The additional, so the fire department still has their fire department budget, and then the brown truck, which is in the Parks and Rec, would be the same, it's shifted to
No.
the rescue one. So there's no additional cost, it's just gonna be
Okay.
replacing, and then next year when we do the budget, they'll have new numbers because it'll be the new trucks.
And on the actual, pardon me, when you get into page 74, so on the tax rates, I was asking if there was missing a row for new multi-residential.
We don't have any new multi-residential, units right now, so we don't have a tax rate.
Well, there is a tax rate on page 71 for new multi-residential, so I was just curious why we didn't have a row for it. But you're saying because
When
we
you
don't.
say a rule, what do you mean a rule?
A row.
Oh,
a
row, sorry.
yeah.
Okay,
So on 71, you have residential, new multi-residential, and multi-residential for tax rate, so 1, 1.1, and 1.965.
yes.
So just lower down on the actual, I guess. The
So-
amounts, you don't have a new multi-residential, and I just didn't know if we should have that slotted in there, or?
We can, but we don't have any multi-residential, so the ratios, that's something that we state, and then we apply our tax rate to it, but we don't have any new multi-residential. So residential units is considered 6 or 7 or more, and then it's something that's built recently, cause they're trying to promote
Mhm.
multi-residential units. So we do have a few multi-residential, but they'd be at the lower, or at the one that's stated, we don't have any new, so the duplexes and triplexes that are being built, they wouldn't be considered
Because they're
multi-residential.
less than 7 units.
Correct.
Okay. I was just thinking that, if we don't have any, should we even have it included at the top, or is it? I guess it's stated, okay. I don't know, I just don't see why we, either way have it
Either
in both
in both
places, or
or none.
don't have it anywhere kind of thing.
Mhm.
Okay, I just didn't know if it was missed or what, so. And what was that here? Roads. So, on page 80 of 81, or before last page, the sewage rates, I was just curious, how were we calculating that for multi-residential?
They are based,
Per unit?
Per unit. So they get one connection fee, but then if they're duplex, one connection fee, cause there's
Service.
one, and then they get 2, user fees.
Okay.
Or 3 user fees, or 4 user fees, depending on how many.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure because it doesn't state that anywhere, so it almost seemed like a building is a building kind of thing, or, maybe wouldn't be a bad thing to have it written in there somewhere, or,
Okay.
just, again, housekeeping. And that's all the questions I have.
All right.
Thank you.
So, are any of the comments or questions, stated reason for, change, or we proceed?
Are you asking me?
Yes, I'm asking you.
Yeah, they were all clarifications, no
Clarifications,
changes
okay.
were requested financially.
All right,
No, not financial, just administrative stuff.
yeah, all right, but like, do you have to do them before we pat? No, we can just go, all right. Therefore, can I have a mover and a seconder for the resolution? Councillor Loftus, Councillor Framboise.
Moved by Councillor Loftus and seconded by Councillor LaFramboise, whereas a balanced budget for 2025 was presented to council at the special meeting of council on April 30, 2025, with total revenue and expenditures of $6,721,765.80. Be it resolved that council for the corporation of the municipality of St. Charles hereby approves the 2025 budget.
All those in favor? Carried. Can I have a mover and a seconder for the first and second readings of the bylaws? Councillor Lachance, Councillor Patil.
Moved by Councillor Lachance and seconded by Councillor Pelletier. Be it resolved that council for the corporation of the municipality of St. Charles hereby gives first and second reading to the following bylaws. Bylaw 2025-27 being a bylaw to set tax ratios for municipal purposes for the year 2025. Bylaw 2025-28 being a bylaw to provide for the adoption of the current estimates and tax rates and to further provide for penalty and interest in default payment thereof and for the levy of other charges for 2025. Bylaw 2025-29 being a bylaw to establish sewage service rates for 2025.
All those in favor? Carried. Can I have a mover and a seconder for bylaw 2025-27, which is to set tax ratios? Councillor Pelletier, Councillor Framboise.
Moved by Councillor Pelletier and seconded by Councillor LaFramboise, be it resolved that council for the corporation of the municipality of St. Charles hereby gives third reading to and finally passes bylaw 2025-27.
All those in favor? Carried. Can I have a mover and a seconder for bylaw 2025, which is to set tax rates as well as penalties and interest? Councilor Lachance and Councilor Loftus.
Moved by Councilor LaChance and seconded by Councilor Loftus, be it resolved, the Council for the Corporation of the Municipality of St. Charles hereby gives third reading to and finally passes bylaw 2025-28.
All those in favor? Carried. Can I have a mover and a seconder for bylaw 2025-29 to set sewage service rates? Councilor Loftus, Councilor Framboise.
Moved by Councilor Loftus and seconded by Councilor LaFramboise, be it resolved, the Council for the Corporation of the Municipality of St. Charles hereby gives third reading to and finally passes bylaw 2025-29.
All those in favor? Carried. Can I have a mover and a seconder to adjourn? Councilor Lachance, Councilor Loftus.
Moved by Councilor LaChance and seconded by Councilor Loftus, be it resolved, the Council for the Corporation of the Municipality of St. Charles hereby adjourns the special meeting of council at 6:16 PM on April 30, 2025.
All those in favor? Carried. Meeting is adjourned.